guys, welcome to the Idea Center, and I'm here with a grand idea.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Idea Center operations video. Today we're going to be covering screen printing. We're going to go over how to use the screen printing. Right now it's on its cart. This may look different in the future, but there's a couple things that I want to make sure we have before we start, so let's do that now. First of all, we need the laptop. We're also going to need the My Screen itself. We will also need an assortment of cables, including a USB cable, a power cord for our laptop, and a power cord for the My Screen itself. Additionally, we're going to want a frame to make our screen and materials for that screen as well. Later on, we will also need to have our clamps and our ink. We also want to make sure we have our squeegee for doing the printing itself. And that is just about it. To get started, we're going to want to use our laptop, and we just want to find a design. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to search up on Google a photo. And what we're going to do is look up black and white, and then we're going to look up whatever it is that we want. So I could look up black and white chrysanthemum. So I like chrysanthemums. And let's see what shows up. Cool. So lots of these different designs. A couple things I'm thinking about. I like this, but it's too simple. I really like this. I might do that one. But I'm also seeing photos like this. This would be an example of a bad photo because it's black and white. It's like gray. There's gray tones in there. We want just black or white. So black or white, black and white. We want black or white. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to grab this one. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to save the image. And we're going to get a JPEG. And then I'm going to go up here to downloads, click on our photo. And all I'm going to do is just crop out the one side that I want. This is not a necessary step if you have a photo done already, if you have like a single design. But for me, I just want to make sure I only have what I want. So I'm going to trim it just like that. I also, and this is true for any design you do, we want to make sure that our design is as close to the edges of the crop as possible. This is because the edge of the photo is how we're going to determine the size later on. And so if you have a much bigger border around your image, it'll be hard to tell exactly how big it's going to come out. So I'm going to save this. Now I have just the photo that I want, and I can close Google and come back to the desktop. Now I'm going to want to open Screen Making, the Sailboat software. And we're going to maximize the window. We're going to hit Choose Image File. And we're going to grab from Downloads or wherever your file is. Usually it's going to be Downloads though. We're going to grab my design and we're going to open it. Now that it's open, I can change the size, and you see that the size is based off the edges of your photo. So now it's going to be really easy to say, oh, I want this to be 6 inches wide. And actually, I don't know what metric is, so I'm going to have to Google this. So 12 inches in millimeters is 300. So I'm going to change our height to 300 millimeters if I want this to be 12 inches tall. And it's a little bit too big. So you know what? I just want to make it as big as I can. And luckily, there's a button for that. So I'm going to hit Fit to Page, and it just maxes it all the way out. So the last thing we need to do is send it to our My Screen. But before we do that, we need to set it all up. Coming back to the main area, we have our My Screen. I'm going to set that here in the, actually, I'll leave it here. And we're going to take our laptop, and we're going to put it right down in between. And I'm going to need to grab my power cord for the machine, which, if you remember, is this. And I'm going to plug that in. And you can see that we plug it in right here. So I'll plug that in. And I'll flip it around. I want the cord to be facing inwards. if it's on the cart and the arrow so that we're pushing through this way. You can also verify that it's on by the green light here. And now the machine is ready. The last thing we need to do for this step is plug in the machine to our computer. So I'm going to take my cord, plug in the machine. And for the USB cord, you'll notice the port is in the same area as the charger. So I'll plug that in. We'll set it back down on the table. And now we're almost ready to go. So now that the computer and the machine are ready, the last thing that we need to do is prepare our material. We're going to grab our frame. And now we're going to want to make a screen. And we're going to want to put these together. So to make a screen is a bit of a tricky process. The first thing to note is that there are two sides to the film. There's a rough side and a smooth side. You may be able to tell on camera, but you probably are going to just have to feel it and tell which side is smooth and which side is rough. Remember that we want the smooth side to be facing the tape. The smooth side is what's going to be holding onto the tape of the frame, and we're going to attach it in a very specific way. So we're going to hold our piece like this. We're going to pull across the center, and very carefully while we're pulling, we're going to press it down right in the center. And we're going to adhere, we're going to attach a strip about 1 inch wide. Then we're going to rotate it. We're going to grab the sides hamburger style. We're going to pull those out again, 1 inch. And then the very last step is to do the corners. So I'm going to pull the corners out from the center, press them down, and do a little strip right near the corners. Do the same on the other side. And then the final step is to tap down. It's important not to slide your hand across the edge, but tap down the rest of the frame. And after you've gone around once tapping, now you can smooth the rest of it out, and you don't have to worry about any bubbles. So now we have a finished frame ready for printing, and we're going to go back to our machine. So now we have our frame, our My Screen, and our design ready to go. The last thing we're going to do is hit Send Image. And when the display says ready for screen making, we can hit OK. And we can load our frame into the machine. We're going to want to make sure that our big divot is on the left, our small divot is on the right. Those are going to index against these two pins right here. And then we're going to take our lever and we're going to press it through. And now we have, you can see our finished design. And if you're very observant, you'll notice that it's the mirror. And what that means is that we're going to need to flip it like this for printing. So the last step is to actually print out our design. And we're going to want to come back over here. I have a bag. I have our finished screen. And what I want to do now is remove the clamps, remove the screen, and what we're going to do is we'll place the bag down, lay it flat, line it up. We'll take our design, put it on top. And I'm kind of having to move my head so that I can see the design. It can be really tricky, but if you see it through the glare in the lights, it's a little bit clearer. And then I'm going to take two of my clamps, and I'm going to hold down two sides. One side, two sides. I'm also being very careful not to set the clamp down directly on top of the screen material. Doing so will create large bubbles and cause problems for your design later on. So now we're ready. All we need to do is add ink and then pull the ink through the frame. So I'm going to find some ink that I like for this one. I'm just going to use some simple red speedball, and on the right of our platen, which is this white plate we're using, I'm going to grab a squeegee, and I'm also going to grab a popsicle stick to add the ink to the frame. So I'll leave my squeegee in the holder, I'll open my ink, and I will scoop out just enough ink to make a little 3/8 to 1/2 inch caterpillar of ink across the top of the frame. And I say caterpillar because I can't think of a better way to describe the consistency of this line I'm making. Try not to leave streaks like I just did. But let's load it all the way across the top. And then we'll scrape off any extras back into the can. For now, I'll take this and I'm going to set it on top of my lid for the ink so that I don't get anything too messy. I'll set my ink to the side. Wipe off any ink that gets on myself. And the last thing I'll do is take my squeegee and we're going to do 3 passes. So the first pass is a loading pass. I'm going to take it slowly and I'm going to spread the ink out over the top of the image. And my goal is to get a nice, clean, consistent layer of ink. So this is called loading. And then I'm going to take my squeegee. I'm going to come back to the top. And I'm going to, at a sharper angle now, press a little bit harder and pull a lot faster. And I'm going to check that I've gotten over every inch of my design. And then I'm going to go back to the top and do it one more time. And now that I'm done, I'm going to hold my squeegee. I'll bring my ink can over the side. And I will scrape off any excess back into the can. And then I will set my popsicle stick down. I will set down my squeegee, trying not to get anything too dirty, and put my ink to the side again. Then I can unclip my frame, remove it from the bag, and reveal a finished design. Now I'm going to take my frame and we're going to make sure we load that frame down into the side for the time being until we need to use it again. Now that is pretty much it. The last step is to actually grab our heat gun. And keep in mind the design is still completely wet, so we need to dry it. So we're going to take our heat gun and we're going to plug it in and we're going to go over it for a couple minutes until it's dry. So I've just plugged in the heat gun. I want you all to see that the power setting is at the maximum. It's at 7. And I'm going to take the level and go all the way to the top. I'll feel it till it's warm, and then I'll do circles over the design. It's important not to get too close like this. Don't be too far away either. But about 4 inches from the design is the perfect spacing. And I'm doing circles and being careful not to hold it in one spot for too long. And you should actually be able to see the texture, the sheen of the ink turn from glossy to matte. And this is showing the water evaporating out of the ink and the ink drying. So we'll do this for a couple minutes until it's done. And periodically, if you want to check, I can just turn off my gun. I can take maybe my pinky and feel it. And if any ink comes off, then obviously that would mean it's not ready. I still see a little bit of ink right there, so I'm going to keep going. So I feel like I'm done now, so I'm going to take a finger that isn't already covered with ink, and I'm going to test it again. And if no ink comes off, then we're good to go. So I'll go ahead, I'll unplug my heat gun. Be very careful. The tip is still going to be really hot, so set this out somewhere to cool and keep an eye on it so no one else touches it. And while the heat gun is cooling down, we can take a look at our finished bag. And that is going to be pretty much it for this video. I would also like to share that if you want to know what a burn does look like, you can see right here, I actually cooked this area a little bit too long, Maybe I held the heat gun too close. Maybe I did too many laps around it, but it looks a little bit burnt. And that is an effect of staying in one spot too long. So be careful about that. And otherwise, good luck.